there's this passage in your book. I'm reading it and I'm like my jaw's on the floor. Now you are an adventurer. It's the stories are legion in your book, Unplugged. You write about taking Sumner Redstone on a tour of sex clubs in Thailand. And you write, if there were to be a greatest hits reel of Sumner Redstone images inside my head, this one would be front and center. Here he was, like a deer in the headlights, mouth slightly agape, moving slowly into the crowd for an even better look. The rest of the crowd couldn't care less about the acrobats fucking on a running motorcycle just over their head. Finally, he leaned into me and said with great enthusiasm, quote, I've never seen anyone fucking before. Oh God, was the man happy? His smile was wide. He was filled with joy. And you ask, haven't you been to an orgy or anything?
I was kidding with him. Yeah, but that's what he said to me. He had never, and I think, as at the end of that chapter, I said maybe this launched him into a life of commercial sex. That's how I don't know this was the first time, but he made it sound like that. He had never seen anybody having sex before. And, the commercials, it's not really my thing, going to sex clubs in Bangkok. I tried.
Really, Tom? Because you went to like three in like 3 pages. There's a place called Supergirls that you went
I've
to.
been, well, I had to do some advance work because I got some people to kind of show me around. He wanted to see, I didn't know my way around. So I did a little,
Got it.
find a couple places that would be okay for him. I wanted to take him over on a business trip, which we did do some of, but he was really, he wanted to go to Bangkok of all the places. I said, we go to Singapore, we can go to Shanghai, we can go to Taipei. But he wanted to go to Bangkok. I said, we don't really do any business in Thailand right now, but he wanted to go. And, this was one of the major reasons. He had never really been to Asia before. And
Really?
I wanted him to see the optimism there because we were rolling out in Asia in a big way. And I wanted him to get excited about our business. And this was like something he wanted to do. And he did a lot of that, in his later years, well after I left him.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Like at that time, if like a page six had gotten a hold of this, I mean, what would have happened to Sumner as like the owner of Viacom? Anything?
I don't know. It was also like it was at a different era. I don't know what would have happened. That was like in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, people
As it
go to
was, the world
people
was
go to strip
scandalized to learn
people
he
go
was
to
living
strip
with two women. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, people would go to strip clubs and so forth. And but I mean, he was Sumner Redstone. I don't know if he would have. I don't really. I can't answer that. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you also write about in the early days of MTV. This was long before I ever got there, but there were like record label executives who were sending like strippers up over to the office and like, it was just like a wild rock and roll party all the time, like drugs in the office, people, having sex on other people's desks, superiors having sex with underlings, all the thing. It feels like a kind of you write about it in a kind of almost Mad Men kind of way, like a bygone era that never to be seen again.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that crazy all the time. There were instances where things happened. I mean, I mean, maybe in all those years, two strippers got sent over for somebody's birthday party. So, and it's not like they got completely naked or anything. I wasn't even there to see it.
Mm.
And then there was a rumor about somebody having sex with somebody in his office, but the guy who they were talking about never let on that that was true. So it was sort of
Oh,
a myth that floated through the office, like, oh, it's so wild that people are doing this, and who knows if it was true or untrue. But it was a rock and roll time. It was a different era, and people really worked hard. That was the main thing I remember.
yeah, they did. Towards the end of your tenure, you write about getting in a fight with Sumner Redstone over his desire to fire Tom Cruise from the Mission Impossible franchise. Um, can you talk a little bit about that? Because that just sounds like what a mistake that would have been. What was animating Sumner in his desire to fire Tom Cruise?
Well, this was Mission Impossible 3 came out. It was the
Mhm.
third in the franchise, which was well reviewed, better reviewed than, this one before it. It's a good movie, but it had, the box office was less than the one before it, and it wasn't that much less. It was still bringing in a couple $100 million. And Sumner's wife had complained that maybe the reason is that Tom Cruise's views. I mean, he went on Oprah's couch and jumped up and down, and he attacked Brooke Shields because of what he did on the Today Show, and
Right.
his Scientology beliefs were affecting his visibility or viability as a movie star.
Right.
And Sumner, he was hoping this thing was going to be a big hit and move the stock price. It didn't happen, so he called over a Wall Street Journal. We weren't doing anything about it in his mind. I mean, look, Tom Cruise was the biggest defender of our company, and he was the biggest franchise in the whole library at Paramount. He said he was going to fire Tom Cruise, not from the movie, which was made. He was going to fire him from Viacom. I pointed out to him that Tom Cruise didn't really work for Viacom, so that really wasn't going to work. You can't fire a guy who doesn't work for you. You could say you don't want him in any further movies, but none of that ever happened. They made up at the end of the day, but it was just a crazy, and I had no idea this was coming. Brad Gray, who ran the studio, had no idea it was coming. He just went out on his lawn in Beverly Park and made this announcement. And, I thought it was an insult to Tom Cruise, and it was unnecessary. And it wasn't the way you want people to think that a certain studio or company is going to treat their biggest movie stars.
Exactly. Now, towards when your time at MTV came to an end, you had no shortage of heavy hitters calling you. You had Bono calling you to say, "Hey, why don't you come run one for me?" You had Oprah Winfrey looking to you to head up OWN, her then network. What was your headspace like at that time? I can't imagine actually how discombobulating and unmooring it must be to have had such a big job for so long and be driving the culture and then suddenly not be doing it anymore.
Well, it wasn't like totally unexpected. I didn't think it was going to happen that soon. I mean, he had fired both of my predecessors in the CEO job. So I knew when I took the job, I'd be fired sooner or later.
Hmm.
It just happened a little sooner than I thought. And yeah, I was depressed, and it was a shock to me. I should have been more aware. Your radar kind of dims a bit. And while I thought we were doing okay, we're on the cusp of trying to reinvent ourselves for the digital age. This was now 2006. And unlike, I wasn't that, my identity was never that tied up in my job. I loved that job. It was all the things I loved in one place. And I thought, I've had other failures in my life. And I came to think that, I'll do something else. It'll be another chapter. I kind of did it. I proved myself. Maybe I had nothing left to prove there. I'll miss all those people. I love the people there. And, other things happened, but I didn't want to be, I felt I didn't want to take a job as a CEO of another company. There was this pride of authorship with
Mm,
Viacom and TV networks. I mean, we built it from the ground up. I was very emotionally attached to it. I didn't want to be grafted on top of a company like, say, a Yahoo. I mean, I didn't really have any connection to it.
mhm.
So I thought maybe in this stage of my life, this chapter, I'd work with people that I liked on projects that I liked and believed in, and maybe I could do some good, give back a little bit. I'd have been very fortunate. I mean, at that point in time, I was 60. So I was ready for a turn of the screw. And as it turns out, it was probably a good time to leave because that was sort of peak of the television revolution. The digital revolution was really supplanting it. And we would watch now for the last 20 years the gradual decimation of the legacy media companies, some,
Yeah.
some more than others. So where the focus is not so much on creativity, but on cost cutting, you know, data, and a lot of things that we didn't have to deal with too severely when the business was ascendant.
Yeah, and the other thing that is sort of killing legacy media though is because in the digital lane anybody can, I mean, yours truly is an example. I can just get on a camera and have a microphone and for next to nothing talk to a group of people and there you go, and I don't have to run my editorial decision making process through layers and layers of corporate executives who may or may not take issue for ad reasons or otherwise. But my last question to you, Tom, is, you write in the book about this is something that fascinates me, having this very acute awareness that the thing that differentiated MTV was its coolness, and that coolness was going to be in finite supply, and that at some point it was going to become too big of an entity to maintain cool, and it would have to pivot in some way. When would you pinpoint like the moment that MTV lost its cool?
Um, well, I don't think while I was there that it ever totally lost its cool.
Hmm.
And we knew that, unless you're like James Dean or Jimi Hendrix and you die really young, you're always cool. If you want to stay cool, which is sort of an imperial descriptor of things, you had to sort of reinvent yourself. We prided ourselves, we got to reinvent ourselves every 4 or 5 years because there's a group of people who were watching us who would be passing through, and soon they wouldn't be watching MTV anymore anyway. And that this new group had different likes and interests, and we had to better cater to them and know what was in their world. So we tried at that. We failed at things. We were successful. I think when MTV began to lose its mojo was really with the birth of YouTube.
Mm.
That was a short form thing, and it wasn't just that because we were sort of the king of short form media, MTV and VH1 and CMT. We were sort of but it was also the beginning of a new era, a new paradigm where people like yourself, I mean, on YouTube, people could upload video, anybody. They could comment on it, they could share it. And it kind of meant that the gatekeeper status that you had, the control over your audience, has disappeared. You're now going to be attacked by thousands of little things coming at you and that are available on demand that people are more interested in. And it's cooler than what you were doing, even though what you were doing for a long time was kind of cool and fun, and it had to do with music. And you could always kind of stay a bit cool by always having the new crop of music. So it was really YouTube and the internet made the inherent problem for MTV's original, kind of format, which was a linear television network that was available on cable or satellite, that you really had no control over yourself. You couldn't like or comment. We had TRL, but that was like just like a top 40 call-in show. It was nothing like what you have now. All these people watching you now can directly be in touch with you and can share you with their friends. And, it's a whole much more ambitious and, sort of operation.
If you have ever read the label on a typical bag of chips, you're poisoning yourself. Just my opinion. It's a science experiment of seed oils, MSG, dyes, and vague natural flavors, but still sometimes you just want the chips. There is an answer: Vandy Crisps. Vandy is part of the growing movement to bring back real food. They're made of just 3 ingredients: 100% pesticide-free potatoes, sea salt, and grass-fed beef tallow. No junk. These chips taste amazing, and they leave you feeling light, energized, and satisfied. No crash, no bloat, or mindless binging to follow. And if you love Vandy, you'll love Masa Chips, Vandy's sister brand. Their 3 ingredient tortilla chips are the best I've ever had. And trust me, when it comes to Mexican food, I am an expert. My go-to flavor is the original, but the white, the blue, the lime, the habanero, the churro, all are delicious. If you are ready to give Vandy or Masa a try, use code Maureen for 25% off your first order at vandycrisps.com or masachips.com, or simply scan the link in the video description or the QR code. Click the link rather, scan the QR code to claim this delicious offer. And if you don't feel like ordering online, Vandy and Masa are now available nationwide at your local Sprouts supermarket. Stop by and pick up a couple of bags before they're gone.